Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Hard week in front of us. 2 road games in league play, one against an NCAA qualifying team if the season ended today, who's going to have 18,000 people in the stands losing their minds, and one of the great home court environments in our country.
Whether it was starting or coming off the bench, just play with more energy, effort, and enthusiasm. That's what I've been trying to do, just say what I'm thinking on the defensive end and offensive end, just talking guys getting in place.
All right, 2 days to go until National Signing Day, and tonight on Sports Talk, we catch you up on everything happening in the world of recruiting. Our voices tonight dealing with basketball. USC's Frank Martin, Clemson's Jordan Roper. We'll do a little basketball as well as both teams, USC and Clemson, victorious on Saturday. USC heading to Arkansas on Tuesday, a 9 o'clock game. Clemson heading to Florida State on Wednesday. Plenty of that to come, but primarily we jump on recruiting tonight because there's been a lot of stuff happening today. It's been a wacky, weird kind of day, and South Carolina is looking at a couple of guys not falling their way tonight. Talking about Damon Arnett and Arden Key. Both are announcing this evening about 90 minutes apart. As of right now, it does not look favorable for South Carolina. We'll review all the recruiting from the weekend and today at the bottom of the hour. We'll take your phone calls, 800-956-7266, on Twitter at SportsTalkSC, email talkback@sportstalksc.com. All right, the Super Bowl, 30 seconds from each of us, our thoughts on the Super Bowl. My 30-second thoughts are these. Glad the Seahawks lost. Better SC team was not there. Horrible call by Pete Carroll. Happy for Tom Brady. Enjoyed listening to the band Perry at halftime. Fabulous show.
Katy Perry.
Yeah. The commercials were much too deep and too sensitive. That's it for me, okay?
Wow. You know who didn't enjoy the game last night? That Nationwide kid.
Yeah.
Because he's dead.
Terrible. That's what I mean. The commercials are way too serious. We're talking football here, man. Give us something light and easy to take.
They killed a kid on TV last night.
You're 50,
and then
you're
spending the rest. I spent the rest. I didn't see the end of the game. I was worried that my 3-year-old was going to end up, drowning in the bathtub.
You've got 10 seconds to wrap it up.
I'm going to defend Carroll because it's every call that doesn't work is a bad call. That's the way it works. The time was down at on that play, which they thought they would on a run play. They have 16 seconds to run 2. They're going to have to pass the ball. They thought they had a good setup for a pass. They called a high percentage play, didn't get it. So it didn't work. Not a terrible call. Not an awful call.
30 seconds.
I go with irony. Cliff Avril getting hurt on a big play where they stuffed the run on 3rd and 1 and a 2-yard loss. It looks like the momentum has turned. They get the interception on the first end zone play, and Jeremy Lane gets injured. So the cumulative effect, the 2 biggest plays that look like they worked for the Seahawks, turned out to decimate their defense enough for Tom Brady to come back in the 4th quarter.
We're back at Sports Talk here on a Monday night. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and the Professor Tom Hayes, the state man Graham Pope. Behind the bulletproof glass, 800-956-7266. That's the phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. On Twitter at sportstalksc. Website is sportstalksc.com. Facebook is Sports Talk Radio Network. Let me catch you up on the major recruiting developments so far today. We'll take your phone calls here early in the program, so jump on board 800-956-7266. Your thoughts about the way things are playing out recruiting-wise. If you want to touch on the Super Bowl, of course, we'll talk more about that. I was only kidding about 30 seconds, but I do want to spend a lot of time on recruiting tonight as we head towards National Signing Day on Wednesday. Now, most of the news today, there is USC and Clemson news. Two of South Carolina's targets, Damon Arnett and Arden Key, are going to announce tonight. Key we've known about, 10 o'clock tonight on Fox Sports South on the Next Level program. And it all appears today it's going to be LSU. Over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, things really started moving towards LSU. And in fact, based on my information, South Carolina was not able to even reach him to talk to him yesterday or today. So that kind of tells you where he has gone with things. So he is headed, it appears, to LSU. Also, of course, he's a two-time USC commitment. Also, longtime commitment defensive back Damon Arnett is announcing tonight on Twitter at 8:30. As of right now, it appears to be moving strongly towards Ohio State for him. So if that happens, that will mean that at the end of the day, 9 players who at one time or another were committed to South Carolina signed somewhere else on signing day, which is a lot to lose out of your class. A lot of number one guys on your board that you thought you had at one time or another, for whatever reason, a variety of reasons, decided to go elsewhere. I can tell you in the case of Arnett, from what I gathered, the talk of the situation with the South Carolina coaching staff impacted his decision and is part of the reason why he's apparently headed to Ohio State. Meantime, USC's hanging in with defensive back Rashad Fenton from Miami. Took his official visit to Louisville over the weekend. Also has been to Florida and South Carolina. We're expecting something from him, according to his coach, either tonight or in the morning. All 3 schools still on the table. Our information this afternoon is it looks good with South Carolina with him at this point. So those are the 3 imminent. And then you have South Carolina waiting on defensive end Tiga Wanoko Jr. of Elmore, Alabama, trying to line up an official visit with him. We'll talk more about him later. Now, the Clemson news today was that 2 of their longtime commitments, and 2 that you thought were really tucked away, Deion Kane and Ray McLeod out of Tampa, they took official visits to Auburn over the weekend. This was interesting. Nobody reported on this prior to the visits. None of the Auburn fan recruiting websites that are tied into everything that happens, much like all these websites are at their respective schools. They know everything that's happening. They didn't report on these visits until after the fact. So call me a conspiracy theorist, but I got a feeling that they were sitting on information here at the behest of the coaching staff until all this was done, which is the way it happens with those guys. So Kane and McLeod visit, and I talked to Kane's coach this afternoon. Kane is still locked with Clemson, his coach said, from talking to the mother. They came back late this afternoon into the Tampa area. The coach hadn't talked to the kid, but he talked to the mother who went with them on the visit and drove him home. And he said that his guy, Deion Kane, is still 100% with Clemson. This is Coach Jason Roberts. He said that the mother said they had a good visit, not anything much different from other visits. But he said at the end of the day, they, meaning Kane, are still 100% Clemson. They took the trip because it was the last opportunity to visit outside of Clemson. And he took a couple of his buddies, one being McLeod, and then a third player went with him as well. Now, Kane is set to sign with Clemson on Wednesday at 1:30. As far as McLeod is concerned, we've heard from sources today that he may not be as solid with his commitment as Kane is. Of course, at one point, McLeod was going to enroll in January. He's already signed the financial aid agreement with Clemson. So that one still, as of this afternoon, remained a little bit in play, maybe more in play than we at first thought. And, of course, whenever this happens with Clemson, it always brings up a very prickly subject to Clemson fans, and that is Dabo Swinney's stated policy that if you commit to Clemson, you don't take visits to other places. And, of course, we pointed this out on the website and on Twitter and heard back from a
you sent off a Scud missile on Twitter last night.
No,
You didn't report it on. You put off a Scud missile
just
last night.
I thought it was a dirty bomb.
I thought there were fireworks with Katy Perry, but no, that was on Twitter last night.
Well, yeah, I put it out on Twitter that his policy is that you don't take other visits if you're a Clemson commitment, or you run the risk of losing your offer for Clemson. In fact, of course, I was attacked from very different directions from Clemson nut jobs, as I call them. Every school's got nut jobs. USC's got nut jobs. Clemson's got nut jobs. There's really good fans who have good dialogue with you and give and take, and then you got your nut jobs who can only see things one way.
Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, so, I can go back here and cite various comments from Dabo Swinney about this policy. For example, back in 2012, he said, quote, I tell guys up front. I just tell guys up front. I'm sure the coaches cringe every time they bring a guy in there to me or get someone on the phone who wants to talk about committing. That's why nobody can take a commitment except for me, because I'm going to have the same conversation with everybody. So then nobody can say, we didn't say this or that. He said, the first thing I try to do is talk them out of it. I want to see really if they're serious about it. If they are, then ask them some questions and talk about it. Then I define it so we can both agree on a definition. Then nobody's mad. So if you decide that later on you don't want to be committed, that's fine. But if you want to be a commitment and you want to go visit other places, that's not commitment. Don't commit. I don't get that. I mean, let's just keep recruiting you. Now, that's a very good position.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very good position to have. I think it's great to explain it to a kid. And if you're going to have a policy like that, then so be it. But it's a policy that is not applied across the board, as we've seen. For example, these two players have not had their offers rescinded. Juwan Briscoe, who's going to sign with Georgia on Wednesday, was a Clemson commitment who went and visited Ohio State, and they pulled the offer from him. A couple of years ago, they had a defensive end named Isaac McDonald. Same situation. Clemson commitment, went and took a visit somewhere else. Offer was pulled. So, again, it's not a policy that is enforced across the board, which to me is a little bit hypocritical, but that is the way that they want to handle things.
But he did say,
there.
we'll keep, and I think they just don't consider you a commitment. With Ray McLeod, they can't pull his offer because he's already signed his financial. They've committed to give him financial aid, so he's locked in.
But there's ways
from Clemson's
to get out
standpoint.
of that. If you don't want the guy for one,
are there ways to get out of a letter of intent?
Keep in mind, these
when
guys,
you signed it.
Yes, well, when you sign financial aid papers, you can sign financial aid papers early with more than one school. In fact, some kids have done that. They've signed financial aid papers with a number of different
and what
schools.
that does for the kid, it's good. It's good for the kid because it guarantees you that they can't pull the scholarship. I mean, that means the school is locked in. Now, Clemson could say, we don't want you. Well, you're still on the hook for a scholarship for Ray McLeod. So that one's a little bit different. And he also said, we'll keep recruiting you. And I think he does reserve the right to say, hey, we may keep recruiting you. We may move on. But the bottom line is I doubt they consider Ray McLeod committed right now. They're probably making contingency plans that if they filled up, not that they wouldn't have a spot for him, but some of these other guys that are further down the totem pole, we don't have a spine. Then move on. We're going to move on to the next guy.
Well, I
don't have a problem.
I asked before. I think it's good not to commit because if there's 4 schools after you, the other schools can attack one school because that's what I say. When they commit, they know now who the enemy is.
We'll be right back. More coming up. All right, just to wrap up the early portion of recruiting, we'll give you more details coming up in just a little bit. But Clemson on Saturday, their 2016 class already starting to take shape pretty nicely. On Saturday, they got a commitment from receiver TJ Chase from Plant City, Florida, goes to IMG Academy. He's a heavily recruited player, and they stand to get 2 more junior commitments on signing day. It certainly looks like that Feaster from Spartanburg, the running back, is set to commit to Clemson, and also the linebacker from Georgia, Jamie Skowski, is set to commit to Clemson as well on signing day. So Tigers already working hard on that 2016 class. Everything had been going very smoothly for them until the Tampa 2 made that trip over to Auburn, kind of upset the apple cart there just a little bit.
The Tampa 2.
The Tampa 2. That's what I deem them, the Tampa 2.
Well, that's not what the Tampa defense is. That's the cover 2 that they play.
Yeah. All right. To the calls, 800-956-7266. And we head first to Billy in Greenville. Hi, Billy, and welcome into Sports Talk.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good.
You know, we've lost, I'm a Carolina fan, we've lost 9 people so far this year. Who really dropped the ball on that, or would this have happened even if we have a coaching change? You know, just your opinion from an objective outsider.
Yeah, thanks. You know, when you have this happen, there's a lot of different things that come into play. I mean, every player has his own story, own individual thing. For example, Austin Clark, he decided he wanted to stay closer to home and go to Virginia Tech. He said he found the same things at Virginia Tech that he saw at South Carolina, plus it was 4 hours closer to home. So, you know, you can certainly understand that. He's a Virginia kid.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to stay closer to home. He goes to Virginia Tech. But there's some other areas where if you're South Carolina, you got to ask yourself what happened. Devon Durant, for example, the linebacker from the junior college, number 1 rated junior college linebacker out of Greenwood. They did something, either his concern about being registered, whatever the case may be. You know, he ends up going to Arizona State.
So
there was a big
academic.
offensive tackle. No, that's what he says.
Okay.
Big offensive tackle, Paris Palmer. I mean, you look at that situation, you think South Carolina is the best place for him. Immediate job opening. He's from North Carolina, so it's an SEC school closest to his home. I loved everything about it on his visit, but somehow, somewhere, something got messed up. I'm not going to sit here and try and blame a coach here or blame something here. You got to look at it systematically and see what in your program, what in your process in recruiting is not working right when you've got 9 guys that decommit from you. And we're talking about 9 frontline players. I mean, when they had these guys in their class to go by the rankings.
That's an institutional breakdown somewhere with your recruiting.
They were ranked in the top 10 by most people. You know, now they're still going to end up between 15 and 20. We'll be back with more in a moment. All right, Sports Talk here on this Monday night. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, the Professor Tom Hayes. We'll hear from Frank Martin a little bit later on. The Gamecocks going to be heading out to Arkansas, take on the Razorbacks tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. See if they can build on their victory over Georgia Saturday. They look good. Clemson looked really good in beating Boston College easily on Saturday. Jordan Roper, ACC Co-Player of the Week. Hot shooting hand for him. Great performance. And Brad Brownell will visit with the media tomorrow. Tigers playing at Florida State on Wednesday and then at Miami this weekend. Of course, now we've got National Signing Day coming up. We've already hit on some of the major news stories of the day in recruiting. There's a lot more to tell you about, so let's jump into it and bring you up to date on everything else that we know about that's going on. So we've told you about Damon Arnett announcing tonight at 8:30, Arden Key announcing tonight at 10 o'clock. Neither looks promising for USC. Defensive back Rashad Fenton of Miami, just in touch with his coach. No decision from him yet today. Could be something tomorrow. Still USC and Florida and Louisville with him. Defensive end Tiga Winogo Jr., Elmore, Alabama, went to Auburn over the weekend. His second visit. He's also been to LSU. Scheduled for Mississippi State February 13th. Tennessee, February 20th. He is not signing on Wednesday. USC continues to work to get an official visit. His assistant coach who works with him told me this afternoon, still no date set for a USC visit, no indication of a favorite. Told you the story about Deion Kane and Ray McLeod and where that is right now. Again, looks good with Kane for Clemson. McLeod, a little bit more of a concern from a Clemson standpoint right now after taking the visit to
a little
Auburn.
McCloudy, one might say.
Oh, no.
It's good, K-Man. Good.
Thank you.
Also at Tampa Tech, Clemson looking at a 2017 kid there, Daquan Green, a wide receiver, 6'2" and 180. Now Clemson got a commitment from receiver TJ Chase in the 2016 class. He is from Plant City, but he goes to IMG Academy. He was in over the weekend for Junior Day, along with two teammates, defensive end Rashawn Smith and athlete Savion Smith. Now, Chase was ready to make his decision after seeing the Tigers up close and in person, and he liked the relationship that he's built with Sweeney and Jeff Scott. He likes the atmosphere and feels like he's got a chance to step in and continue Clemson's success with wide receivers from Florida and from the Tampa area. 24 catches, 600 yards, 5 touchdowns last season. He's a national recruit. USC and schools all across the country had offered him as well, but he says he's shutting it down. He says that he's going to concentrate on his grades and everything he needs to get to Clemson. Fourth commitment for the 2016 class. Defensive Javon Kinlaw from Goose Creek was at Clemson's Junior Day first on Saturday from about 10 till 4. On the way home, he came by South Carolina and stopped in for about 15 minutes where he met with recruiter Steve Spurrier Jr., got a look around the place once again. The trip to Clemson was his first. Said he liked it, a lot of trees. He said a lot of nice people. Didn't do too much with the coaches, he said, but it looked real nice to him. At USC, he said he got there kind of late. They showed him around the place, thought it was a little bit bigger from a facility standpoint. He now has USC in front by about a 60-40 margin over Florida. Those are his top two at this particular time. Alabama, Louisville, East Carolina, and Clemson have also offered him. He wants to be a defensive end in college. Some schools are looking at him as offensive tackle. He sees himself as a defensive end. Tight end Jordan Ghiberti of Gainesville, Florida, was at USC Saturday for their Junior Day, and he really enjoyed his visit. Saw a good look at the program and the academics. He's got an offer from the Gamecocks and Utah. He's also drawing interest from Central Florida, Cincinnati, Arizona, and Northwestern. Excuse me. Plans a return trip to Columbia this summer. Offensive lineman Jack DeFore, who is 6'5", 268, Calhoun, Georgia, was at Clemson Saturday. He was given an offer before he left campus, and he's made a decision. He said it could be most in the February 4th. He says he'll know what he knows. His offensive tackle is with Robbie Caldwell, and to really like the people there. To good fit for Clemson on their offensive line. He said they're at the top of his list. Cincinnati, Middle Tennessee, Georgia Southern, and they also offered him. He was 3 State in Georgia last season. Now, back to me in Fisher from Spartanburg was at Clemson's junior day, Saturday. He plans to announce his commitment Wednesday, 6 o'clock at his school. It's believed that he'll announce for Clemson, though he's not said anything publicly. Tigers first offered him in 2013. They've remained at the forefront of his recruiting. Dabo Swinney met with him earlier in the week at his school, and co-offensive coordinators Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott saw him the week before. And he's been to Clemson a lot over the past couple of years. He said he had some private time with Swinney, who told him, quote, he was telling me he's building a dynasty. From what I see, they're getting highly recruited guys. They've got a wonderful quarterback, a big 2015 offensive line, great receivers already there, and great receivers coming in. He's put together a pretty good bunch. End of quote. He's coming off a year which he helped lead his team to a state championship, 1,153 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns, caught 45 passes, 1,016 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Also Wednesday, junior linebacker Jamie Skalski, 6'1", 230 of Noonan, Georgia, plans to announce his decision between 11 and 12, deciding between Clemson, where he was on Saturday, and USC. At one time, he favored USC, but he's been favoring Clemson most recently. Liked everything he saw at Clemson, the facilities, the coaches, the academics. Met with Swinney, and he said that was great as well. So those look like there'll be 2 2016 commitments coming for Clemson. Receiver defensive back Denzel Johnson of AC Flora made an official visit to UMass over the weekend, did not commit. Said he's considering Clemson, UMass, Towson, SC State in no order, and South Carolina has had contact with him as well and could become a factor with him once again. Both schools, USC, Clemson, could be talking to him about a possible gray shirt situation. He does not plan to sign on Wednesday, and he's been in contact with Clemson. And linebacker TJ Brunson of Richland Northeast was at USC Saturday. Did not go there with an offer, but he picked one up today, and he thinks pretty highly of South Carolina at this point. He's got the Gamecocks now as his favorite, and he spent time with Lorenzo Ward, Steve Spurrier Jr., also with Kurt Bodkin. He also has offers from NC State and Georgia Southern. Plans to go to junior days at State February 21st and at Clemson on March the 7th, also thinking about Louisville. Receiver Brian Edwards of Conway is now a big lean to South Carolina. He was there for their junior day on Saturday, and he's got South Carolina well out in front of Clemson and Wake Forest at this point. He also has offers from Virginia Tech, Florida, Duke, North Carolina, and Kentucky. And the scheduled visit this past weekend to USC by 6'10" center Levi Cook of Huntington Prep in West Virginia was postponed until later this month, according to his coach. Frank Martin and assistant Lamont Evans were at their game Friday night. They want to bring Cook in possibly February 21st for the Texas A&M game and the basketball reunion weekend. His coach at Huntington Prep in West Virginia says that there's a lot of interest both ways. Cook is interested in South Carolina. Of course, they're very interested in him. He's also looking at Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech, Missouri, and Michigan. He's taken unofficial visits to Virginia Tech and Pittsburgh. This season, Cook is averaging 9 points and 8 rebounds per game. He's 6'10", about 305 pounds. All right, there you go with recruiting for now. K-Mac, anything you want to add?
I think you covered it all.
Okay.
Yeah, that was great stuff.
That's what we try to do. We try to cover it all. So we'll add in more stuff as it develops tonight. You know, recruiting, it's a fluid situation, an inexact science. It never stops, and neither do we. Back in a moment. Get back to your phone calls here on this Monday edition of Sports Talk. We'll open up the phone lines and hear what's on your minds. Recruiting-wise, Super Bowl-wise now, a little basketball talk as well, 800-956-7266. And we head back to the phones and we travel down to the bad boy by the bay, the ninja of the night, the pontiff of the port city, the queen of the cowboy crybabies, and a man who decommitted 7 times during his football recruiting process and ended up being a running back at Tri-County Tech.
I was going to say with the Mean Machine.
It's not Jim Rome. Ended up playing for the Mustangs in the movie. What was it? Something Boys. What was that movie? The Mustangs with The Rock as the coach. Oh, Gridiron Gang. Yes. Ended up with the Gridiron Gang.
Okay.
It's not Jim Rome. He's
great.
busy. It's Jerome.
Hey, Phil.
Yes, Jerome. You ever broken a commitment, Jerome? You ever decommitted from anybody?
No, Phil.
Except
I'll never do that.
except your ex-wives.
Hey, Phil.
Yes,
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you have your Johnny Weir outfit on tonight?
I do not. It's at the cleaners.
He does have. He wears that usually on Wednesdays.
It's at the cleaners.
Did you see Johnny Weir on the pregame show yesterday?
I did not. I didn't watch any of the pregame show.
Yeah, I didn't. I saw a picture. I didn't see him. I remember him from the Olympic coverage, though. He had some pretty flamboyant costumes that he would put on. It's kind of his thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I know you want to send your heartfelt sadness to the Seattle Seahawks, right, Phil?
You
I
know
you're really sad today.
what goes around comes around. All right. You know, they're lucky to be there. They took advantage of some stupid lack of execution on the part of the Packers. And now, you know what? They got their just reward.
I have a question for Pete Carroll. What kind of bovine spongiform crack addict call was that on the goal line?
Yeah, we were discussing that earlier. I mean, you can try and spin it and say, I heard the talk, they didn't like the personnel lineup. They didn't, they felt that New England was lined up to stop the run, and thus they were going to take a quick shot with the passing game. Fine and dandy. But you know what? The Cleveland Browns, they would have given Jim Brown the ball. The Chicago Bears would have given Walter Payton.
No, they would have given the refrigerator Perry the ball.
Jim Brown would have taken the ball. Nobody would have been had the guts
the
not to
Detroit
give the
Lions
ball.
would have given Barry Sanders the ball.
Just the worst. It was a goofy call, but you wouldn't think that they probably thought worst case scenario it's incomplete. They never in a million years. We got to give some credit to the defensive back for jumping that route and making that play. That was a great play.
It was a great play.
It was explained to me today by a football guy that what he saw, it was supposed to be like a pick play.
Yes.
And it got messed up, and he's reading that, and as soon as he saw the inside move start to develop, he
knew that's where it was going.
He knew where it was. Now, if
he was playing the ball the whole,
if
it wasn't
the receiver had the forethought to do a juke move and go the other way, he would have been wide open. If that had been the route, like they ran before when they
the Patriots hit a couple of those.
Exactly. If he had run that kind of a route, it would have been wide open. But he took a gamble. He guessed right this time, and he beat him.
That's
to the
what
ball.
you do. I mean,
receiver didn't do a good job.
I was
thinking the ball either.
When Lynch didn't score on first down, I was like, "Oh, that's probably good for them. They can kill some more clock here and not let Brady have another crack at it." And I was screaming at the TV for Belichick to call a timeout.
Well, I think Belichick. The guys in the booth were saying, "Let them score. You need to let them score and get the ball." I'm thinking that he's thinking, you know what?
Get a stop.
My defense is good enough to do a goal line stand here. I'll take my chances with my defense.
If you stop Lynch once, you force him to pass at that point, and it wasn't a bad idea. I would have called the timeout.
Well, my point is the guy that's been open all night, wide open, was Wes Matthews. In fact, I thought
Chris
Matthews. The thing that got me was I thought the gamble before the half was bigger than this one. I mean, for that
6 seconds?
6 seconds to throw a touchdown pass.
But if you're gonna, you got Russell Wilson at quarterback. Okay, fine.
Run.
You want to run if you're gonna run a pass, why don't you run a play action rollout? You give him the option of throwing the ball, and if it doesn't work out, he can run it. Or in that scenario, he's more likely to throw it away and avoid the interception than he is trying to force it in the middle of the field.
Throw it high up in the air like he did on the 2-point conversion.
All right, continuing with your phone calls here on this Monday edition of Sports Talk, a couple of days away from National Signing Day 2015. Ted in Sumter, good evening, sir. Welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
I'm doing good, guys. I got a comment and a question. Let me tell you, guys, I've never coached anything in my life. Not Little League, not college, not pro, not Pee Wee League. But I tell you what, I could have called plays last night for that game, and Seattle would have won. I'm talking about at the very end. Listen, Marshawn Lynch, guys, hand it to this angry man, because obviously he's angry about something. Hand it to this angry man. He scores a touchdown. I don't care. When they got in the shotgun, I was like, look, what in the hell are they doing? I thought it was, to be honest with you, I was going to be the old John Elway play. John Elway, fake draw, the fake quarterback draw, Russell Wilson runs in for a touchdown, or the 6'5" wide receiver that they had been using. They could have thrown it to that guy for a jump ball. Either he catches a touchdown or it's incomplete, clock stops. And I'm coming back on third down. I'm going to script 2 plays, okay? I'm coming back on third down, and I'm handing it to Marshawn Lynch. What we saw last night, John, is just like if the Lakers were playing and Phil Jackson said, just wave off Kobe Bryant, and we're going to have somebody else take the last shot. It was the most stupidest choke job in the worst coaching in Super Bowl history. And Phil, my question to you is, who do you think is going to end up with the number 1 class? Is it going to be Alabama, SC, or Florida State?
Alabama.
And I agree it was a bad call, but let's not – I mean, Carroll won a Super Bowl last year.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the Super Bowl this year. One bad, call away from winning 2.
Doesn't take
so
long
I don't
to
think that
ruin
makes you the worst
reputation.
coach in Super Bowl history. Barry Switzer won a Super
And
Bowl.
what a heck of a call before the first half.
I mean, that was a great play
now
call.
The one thing I thought about when he threw that touchdown pass, is the fact that Russell Wilson, this is why, and I'll bring a message out to the kids. That's why you should play a lot of sports. I don't think many quarterbacks could make that throw, but Russell Wilson being a baseball player, a second baseman, learning how to take the throw and relay it for a double play, that ball was out of his hand in milliseconds. Snap, hoop, hoop, and he was in the end zone. It was tremendous. That showed me that his baseball skills he learned in baseball actually helped him on that play. Unfortunately, I think he led the receiver too much. I thought the call, you can get by with that call, but he led the receiver too much, and that gave the opportunity for the defensive back to take the pick.
As far as who's going to end up with the best recruiting class, I mean, I think he spurted out Alabama probably without giving a whole lot of thought, but you're probably right. It's probably going to be Alabama. They've won in terms of the rivals rankings. If you like to look at that stuff, they've been number 1 for the last 5 years. No reason not to think they won't be number 1 this year. They usually knock out a couple of home runs on signing day just to put a little icing on the cake there. So Alabama, Southern Cal's had a big year. Of course, Clemson, Florida State, Tennessee, they've all recruited well as far as the rankings. Georgia too, but looks like Alabama's king once again. Top of the hour break. We'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Coming up in this hour of Sports Talk, we'll hear from USC basketball coach Frank Martin. The Gamecocks impressive, really clamped down on Georgia. Now, Georgia was playing their leading scorer, Marcus Thornton, but USC was playing without two contributors as well, Demetrius Henry and Justin Mackey, all three out with concussions. Now, Mackey is not going to play against Arkansas tomorrow night. They do think they'll have Henry back and available, but the Gamecocks really played a terrific defense from the opening bell against Georgia, kept up the heat and the pressure. Georgia shot 22%. That's an all-time record low for a USC opponent in an SEC game. So they held them to, I think it was 9 field goals or 11 field goals.
Yeah, two in the last 13 minutes or something.
Yeah,
like that.
They didn't.
That's bad.
Hardly anything. That's
bad, right?
It's pretty bad.
That's terrible.
Sounds
That's kind of how USC has played some games this year with their shooting.
That tells you, man, both South Carolina and Clemson, for the most part, pack their defense every night. And look how exceptional both teams look when they hit a few shots. That's all they need. Get the offense. Jordan Roper, we had the feeling he had plateaued after a promising freshman year. Finally, he has come out of his shell again, and he talks about a little talk he had with Coach Brunell about needing more from him. And boy, if they can get that offense consistently from him, there's no need to not suspect that Clemson could be playing for a bye in the ACC tournament.
ACC tournament is just going to be dynamite come March. I mean, you look at some of the games. We got Virginia and North Carolina tonight. You had North Carolina and Louisville over the weekend. You had Duke and Virginia. You got Syracuse, which is not having a great year, but they're still Syracuse. Pittsburgh's kind of the same way. NC State certainly very capable. Clemson looks very capable. Miami's very good, even though they lost over the weekend to – who beat them? Somebody beat Miami over the weekend.
Florida State beat them yesterday, 55-54.
Yeah. So, Florida State's so up and down, you never know what to expect.
They got all those 7-footers, though. That's what gets you. That height, somehow, if they can hold teams down, they can shut off that lane completely.
Yeah, Gamecocks held Georgia to 11 total field goals, 22% shooting, 4 of 25 in the second half. That's 16%. They did a heck of a job defensively. And you're right. You play defense, you get a few shots to go down, and it just sort of lifts you up as a team, and you start to just move better, cut better, set better screens, everything looks better. And South Carolina only shot 40%, but for them, that's not all that bad. They did hit 6 threes in the game, and a good crowd of 13,000 plus at the Colonial Life Arena. USC women, of course, remain number 1 in the country, undefeated after another impressive road win last night, 21-0, 9-0 in SEC play after they beat Ole Miss in Oxford 77-59. Back in a moment. All right, just getting the official word here from Tavian Feaster. Just texting us to tell us 6 o'clock, Spartanburg High School in the atrium is when he's going to announce his thing on Wednesday. Expected to go with Clemson. Tigers have been on him from the early stages of his recruiting. They impressed him. He's impressed them. And a lot of people think he's the best running back in the country in the 2016 class. Good-looking kid in terms of running and receiving. And he'll be announcing for probably Clemson on Wednesday. And again, they also stand to get the linebacker Jamie Skowski and perhaps the offensive lineman Jack DeFore be doing something soon as well. So Clemson already with 4 commitments for 2016, 5 if you count the gray shirt of the defensive back, the Shrine Bowl defensive back from Daniel, who's being I say red shirt, I meant gray shirt. The gray shirt for him, he would count on that 2016 class of newcomers. So that would actually give them 5 at this point. I'm talking about, oh, come on, Corn. Where'd you put that? I have to find it. It's, what's his name? Kid's dad played in the NFL, works at Clemson. Come on, people, help me out here. Don't leave. Why do y'all leave me hanging when I'm just searching for a name? I can't get any help from my boys here.
Because he looks so beautiful.
Amir Trapp. Amir Trapp, yeah.
Oh, James Trapp.
James Trapp's son, yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the help. Thanks for bailing me out, guys. I appreciate that.
Welcome. Well, we didn't know who you were talking about. There's so many guys who at Clemson were in the pros. I just didn't.
All right, so we'll get back to phones in a moment, but, we talked about the decommitments for South Carolina and with Arnett likely to pick Ohio State. That'll be 9. I mean, should they be worried? Should they be concerned about what has transpired with this class? Can they still, I don't want to say salvage something, but can they somehow still make a positive out of this recruiting campaign? Can South Carolina, we're talking about here, somehow make a positive? I mean, they're going to end up, well, of course, not getting Arnett back in the fold. That's going to drop them a couple of notches. Not getting Key is not going to help them. So, I mean, they may even slip out of the top 20 before it's all said and done.
Those defensive ends, they got lined up. Those guys are in the fold. That's what they needed desperately.
Well, Arden Key was, as good as, if not better than any of those guys.
I want to say that
supposedly, reputation.
Let me tell you something. I looked at that kid's bill, and I don't care how good he is. Those guys coming from junior college make him look like a stick man. So they needed help immediately. They didn't need potential. They needed help immediately.
If Arnett comes off the board, that will put USC back to 30 newcomers in this class. I mean, I still like the look of South Carolina's class. You look at it across the board. It will hurt not having Arnett. You don't find many 6'2", 185-pound cornerbacks that can play.
I'm not so certain he would have stayed at corner, but that's where his position was.
But maybe they take Octavius Johnson and pencil him in there, 6 feet, 183, Antoine Wilder, Darren Smalls, Torrey Boyd. You still have 4 in the secondary. You mentioned all the defensive ends. I mean, look, Shameik Blackshear, Dante Sawyer, Marquavius Lewis in particular, all highly regarded defensive ends. Maybe Devontae Covington and Quadeski Whitlow will be contributors as well. Then in the middle defensively, Dexter Wyman. I mean, this guy's got a chance to perhaps be a terrific defensive lineman. And Ulrich Jones, if he gets in from junior college in the summer, you're talking about a 300-pounder that you can put in there. Linebackers, Pittman, one of the best in Florida. Henry and Fennell, not exactly guys that were heavily recruited, but 2 guys that they liked.
And you never know. I mean, I just saw a stat on Twitter, 22 Super Bowl starters last night. There wasn't one 5-star recruit.
Yeah, I've seen that tweet, but another guy tweeted out, one of the internet nut jobs, tweeted out that stat, but he also said of the 4 teams that played in the football playoffs, there was like 30-something 5-stars that started forming.
All right. The MVP of the MVP of the not Super Bowl. Well, then again, you could say the Super Bowl too. Tom Brady. Go watch his combine. film if you ever want to see a guy that looked awful. I mean, you would have never guessed.
6th-round pick.
Yeah.
Well, see,
but Aaron Rodgers, your boy, he was a junior college transfer to Cal.
Yeah.
J.J. Watt, he was a walk-on.
Yeah. Oh, there's great stories of
Tony
guys
Romo,
overcoming
these are the top three players in the NFL this year.
No, but you mentioned that. Here's the problem with the NFL. With there's a few number one draft choices that pan out. But I think a lot of quarterbacks, because they're number one and they're getting paid a lot of money, get pushed into the job before they're ready. Then they panic, lose confidence, and they struggle the rest of their career. You get a guy like Tom Brady, who's a 6th-round draft choice, and your man in Green Bay who had a chance to sit behind one of the greats, and they were allowed to mature. Some of these quarterbacks, they rush in and they're not ready to play at the NFL level, and they get burned out very quickly. You know, that's my take on that. But as far as the recruiting is concerned, you know, it's interesting, Phil, you talk about, is South Carolina worried about? Here's the one thing I would think about if I'm South Carolina. Prior to this year, when you won 11 games, 3 straight years, you recruited a lot of players that maybe fell through the cracks and they panned out. Now you got to worry that if you take early commitments from guys, other schools are saying, you know, these guys have a good eye for talent. Let's start cherry picking their list. Maybe you have to decide that you either have to take solid commitments or just tell the guys, look, go ahead and take your visits, so-and-so. We'll be watching you, whatever. Because if anything, I think guys are going to continue to use Spurrier's age against him. That's going to be one thing. So it's a convenient excuse for a player to decommit, because there are more players who didn't decommit, who's not worried about Spurrier's age, but the ones who did decommit say it's the coaching staff, it's the coach's age.
When you look at it, about a third of the class decommitted. I mean, they're at 30 players. They'll have 9 decommitments. That's about a third of your class at one point.
A handful. Again, we get back to it, Corn. You touched on it. I think they need to do some soul searching. And I know that I think we all expect there to be some kind of shakeup with the staff in terms of bringing people in. But Steve Spurrier Jr., he's a recruiting coordinator. That falls on him. That's his job. And you gotta maintain your class. And they had a class that in some rankings was top 5 that's going to drop in maybe to 20 now. And the perception out there is that they are a sinking ship. And perception isn't always reality, but what a difference a year makes for South Carolina football. A year ago, they were riding another bowl win, 11-win season. Recruiting was looking good. They didn't think there was going to be any end in sight. And Steve Spurrier said last month that, you know what, maybe we got a little cocky. Maybe we thought we had arrived and let our foot off the gas. And it's a vacuum now, and they have to make up some ground. And at age 70, can they turn it back around?
I will say this. It's good in a way because it makes you hungry. Because I've seen it happen to championship programs. Remember Texas? Kids come in after you start to win and think, you know, this team wins every year. Let's join a winning team. And suddenly they're not the kind that had to build a program to where it is, and they don't work as hard. Then they hit the field. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me it's not the jerseys that make us win? And that's what happened to Texas. South Carolina, I think, experienced that a lot with some of their young
Texas
players.
Texas is still trying to recover. So that's a scary example. If you're South Carolina, they had to run off Mac Brown because they thought he had lost it and the game had passed him by. I mean, that's a scary example. And the bottom line is Steve Spurrier, and he knows this. He wants to leave on his own terms, and he's going to. But it usually doesn't end well. I mean, how many coaches, even the most wildly successful ones, walked away on top and without there being some kind of ruffled feathers, whether it's Bobby Bowden at Florida State, Joe Paterno at Penn State. I mean, how many guys really leave the game on their own terms?
About the only one you can think of is Ara Parsegan, who left Notre Dame at the height of his coaching career, never to coach again. get back to your phone calls in just a minute. I want to finish up talking about what USC has and what USC has lost. So we're talking linebackers. Another linebacker to watch for, of course, junior college transfer Ernest Hawkins, who's already in school. Got to like 6'2", 220. He could be an immediate guy in the middle of the defense. Despite losing a couple of guys on the offensive line, I like the five that they've put together. Christian Pellage, Zach Bailey, Blake Camper, Corey Helms, Trey DeRuin, all have tremendous size, and they look on paper like good players. I love the kicker, Joseph Charlton from AC Flora, very strong leg. Love the quarterback, Lorenzo Nunez. Again, a guy that has a lot of talent. Running backs, Turner, one of the best in Virginia. Denson, more of a power guy. Neither one particularly flashy, I don't think, but probably serviceable. The tight ends look solid, both good receivers. Mark Way and Redmond, and then the receiving core, DJ Neal, Gerard Washington, Jalen Christian Owens. Owens, a big guy at 6'5". Christian and Washington, smaller but fast, and Neal, just a good athlete. Got to hope you keep him from baseball. So, you know what? It's not a bad-looking class, but look at the ones. Don't forget the ones that got away. Mark Fields Jr., Arden Key, Austin Clark, Josie Milton is going to go to TCU. Paris Palmer going. Let's go back. Let me mention where these guys are going. They didn't lose them to slop programs. Mark Fields going to Clemson. Arden Key going to LSU. Austin Clark going to Virginia Tech. Josie Milton going to TCU. Paris Palmer going to Penn State. Devon Durant going to Arizona State. Chauncey Rivers going to Georgia. Jair Alexander going to Louisville. Those are all frontline number ones on your board, and you feel that. You try the best you can to recover. Maybe they've recovered in large part. I don't know. Time will tell, but those are 9 guys that you identified when you started out with this class. And you said, okay, we want this guy, and you got them. You didn't keep them. And that's what Steve Spurrier has got to take a step back at and look at with his staff and figure out why. Why did we lose Paris Palmer? How did we lose Arden Key? Not once, not twice, but 3 times. How did Mark Fields get away? Was it what I said? Is it the concern over the shakeup on the defensive staff? Is it something in our presentation? Is it because we were 7-6? These are questions that Spurrier has got to address. You cannot – I mean, we can fluff it off and say it's recruiting, and it happens, and it does. Everybody has decommitments, but not in one class.
Almost double digits.
Is almost unheard of.
And who knows what's going to – I mean, there's still a few days. I mean, I think South Carolina fans at this stage are just like,
snake bit.
Hopefully there's nothing else that's going to go wrong.
Then you ask the other question is, why is those who repeat like a Shameik Blackshear stay the course?
He never looked anywhere else.
Yeah. See, sometimes you deal with a kid who looks at the last girl who walked through the door. That's the one I'm going with. No matter what,
I've always looked at the first girl and gone that direction. another commitment to tell you about. Markevius Adams, wide receiver from Greenwood, Shrine Bowler. He committed to Appalachian State. Had a heck of a year. I think he was a Shrine Bowler. Pretty sure he was. 70 catches, 1,057 yards, and 12 touchdowns this season. He has committed to Appalachian State. 800-956-7266 is our phone number here on Sports Talk. Yes, he was a Shrine Bowler. As we get back to your phone calls, and it's Charles in Bamberg with us next. We'll try and run through as many calls as possible. Charles, welcome in. How are you?
Hey, man. I want to make a couple of points about the Super Bowl, that famous call now. Did you hear Pete Carroll's explanation?
Yes.
I thought it made perfect sense. 2 timeouts, second down.
I thought it was 2 timeouts. My guys are sitting here telling me they had only 1 timeout.
They have 1 timeout.
They had
one
timeout.
They had 2 timeouts before
They have
he
one
ran that
timeout.
play.
No, 1. Because they had 1 timeout when the Patriots got the ball back, and they had
they
called
had 2 timeouts.
Now you thought, but you thought.
Go ahead,
wrong.
sir. Go ahead.
Well, I'll have to look back at the replay. I thought it was 2, but anyway, 2 or 1. Carroll said, you can't figure on scoring on the first play. You certainly think you will and hope you will, but you got to figure on 3 plays it's going to take to get in, and one of them is going to have to be a pass. And what better time to do it than on the very first play when they're probably not expecting it. And I thought that made perfect sense. Also, when are you ever going to dream that a 3-yard pass is going to be intercepted?
Mm-hmm.
Great play on that defensive back's part. You just never got to figure that's going to be intercepted.
Yeah,
You're right, because 9 slants thrown inside the 5-yard line, and only 1 all year long was intercepted, and that was the one last night.
There you go.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm looking for that. I swear that they had 2 timeouts left.
I mean,
no, I just
they had 1 timeout
I'm going to
left,
find
and
you the evidence here. Let's see. Seattle calls second timeout with play clock nearly expired.
After the circus catch.
Let's see. Beast mode stopped inside the 1.
No
so they had
called.
yes, I'm reading it right here.
Yeah.
Beast mode stopped. Let's see. Obligatory replay of David. Okay. Seattle calls second timeout after the catch.
So they had 1 left. Call their second timeout.
Yeah,
that means they have 1 left.
All right. Beast mode stopped inside the 1.
It's slowly coming.
No, why not? Give it.
The light bulb, it's starting to flicker, and it just turned on.
Back to the phones we go.
Got it figured out.
And we go to Kenny in Greenwood. Hi, Kenny. How are you? Welcome into Sports Talk.
Doing well. I heard you were doing your recruiting spill earlier in the program.
Yeah.
And you were talking about a recruit that I guess had been to Clemson and Carolina. I forget which recruit it was. And I think you made a comment that the recruit said that I guess he believed that Carolina had grander facilities or something of that nature.
He said
and
larger.
Yeah. I'm thinking to myself, if that's a basketball recruit or a baseball recruit, I'd probably give Carolina a slight edge in facilities. But football, that don't even seem like even close to reality. I even once heard Urban Meyer say that Clemson had facilities second to none. So I'd like to. There's something happened down there in the last year that I'm not aware of. Could you expand on that? I kind of thought this facilities was much better than Carolina's. But anyway, I'll let you comment on it.
Yeah. Thank you. It's Javon Kinlaw, and you never know what a kid sees and what he remembers. I mean, I'm just quoting him.
A Chick-fil-A over there on 5 Points.
Yeah, I'm just quoting him on what he had to say, and he said, "I'm pulling back up his comments right here." He said, "Clemson, I'd never been there before. There were a lot of trees. It was all right. A lot of nice people. I left early, so didn't do too much with coaches, but everything was pretty nice, pretty clean. It looked real nice." And then he went to USC. He's been there before, and he said they showed me around the place. He said it was bigger than Clemson, the facilities. So maybe just, he was inside the stadium, and maybe it just looked bigger to him. Keep in mind he's favoring South Carolina. I didn't get the feeling just based on what he was saying and the tone of his comments that he's all that interested in Clemson. I think Clemson may be recruiting him more for an offensive tackle, and he wants to be a defensive end. And if you're recruiting him as an offensive tackle, I don't think he's going to be all that interested in you. He wants to be a defensive end.
Offensive tackle?
Yeah. He plays
And plus, kids like a lot of nice new shiny things, and South Carolina does have a lot of construction.
Yeah, so does
Going,
Clemson.
they
got the Oculus going up.
The Oculus is going to be
Don't forget
big.
the Oculus.
Yeah.
All right, back to the phones. Thank you so much for the call. And we head next to Tiger Bryan in Lancaster. We're fine. Hope you are too.
I am pretty good. How you doing tonight?
We're doing
Just
great.
said it was fine.
Fine. Great.
I think, boy, you know, it's me. They're coming in. You know, we alternate 5 crews, 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars. You know what gets me? Until they get on the field and play for us, South Carolina and Clemson, I ain't gonna take nothing away from nobody. If we don't get the right quality kids, you know, it fits with each program, we spinning our wheels anyway, man.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's got to be a good fit between athletics and academics and fitting in the locker room and being a good citizen, da-da-da-da. You're right. You want good people in your program.
But I'll tell you what, man, I ain't going to hold y'all up tonight. Hey, I appreciate what y'all do. Hey, y'all number one to none.
Top notch.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
As Tom Landry used to say, you got to put some good prospects here with the Cowboys. He said, they're called suspects. Until I get them on the field and they get hit in the mouth, I don't know what we have. So that's what I'm looking for. I think Eddie Foley used to make that statement too.
Looks like Jordan Scarlett, who was a Miami commitment up until tonight, is now committed to Florida. Did so on one of the television shows tonight. So he's now committed to Florida. He's a guy that USC recruited some. He's from University School in Fort Lauderdale.
Season.
I think that's the same school that Sky Moore was from, University School in Fort Lauderdale. That's why USC had some involvement with him, but never got him on for an official visit or anything like that. So now Jordan Scarlett, 5'10", 200, is a Florida Gator commitment. Back to the phones. Ronnie in North Augusta, who's concerned about the world caving in around him. Hello, Ronnie. How are you? Will the Gamecocks have a football team in 2015? Can they ever beat Clemson again in your lifetime? What do you think?
This year. We'll do it this year.
This year.
I wanted to congratulate K-Mac, but I'm winning that award, but I know he realizes, but he trained under a man that's been at the top of this game so long, but there wasn't Twitter.
Who is that?
Wasn't no Twitter, wasn't no Facebook. Bill Cornbluth was doing this when Tiger Wayne had to climb in the top of a pine tree just to pick up the station.
Oh, Tiger. You don't sound like yourself, Ronnie. You got a cold?
Got a bad cold.
Yeah.
Hey, what I was going to say, we'll bite the bullet, Bill, if we got to do it, if it takes losing a few recruits to get some better coaches. And I'm all about it. We done lost to Clemson this year, right this year off. Get all the bad stuff over with, but move on, get ready for next year.
It's coming at you like a freight train. Who's going to be your quarterback? That's the thing, though. I mean, you cannot, as a Gamecock fan, sit there and have a feel for your team until you see who your quarterback's going to be.
No, I mean that's the one thing. I'll have to admit, but it just scares you to death. But I got enough confidence in Spurrier. Maybe he can find somebody that can halfway.
You ought to be used to the feeling. You had the same feeling when you had Garcia at quarterback.
But the thing about it is, I think there doesn't seem to be a sense of urgency. With the coaching staff changes, nothing's happened. 2 months after the season, 1 recruit, 2 recruits, 3 recruits, 4 recruits, and it's been, we're fine, we're doing great recruiting. It's like the house is burning, and you're like, you're sitting on the Titanic. Don't worry, the music's still playing. I mean, it looks pretty bad right now from the outside.
Got a good one going in Chapel Dump, Virginia and North
Chapel Hill.
Chapel Dump,
Dean Dome.
Virginia and the Blue Bellies. Blue Bellies get a controversial tip-in basket. You know, you got to remember where you are, Virginia. You're on Tobacco Road. You might think you're number 3 in the country, but you're on Tobacco Road, and you're going to get hosed. Now, I don't know if that was a good call or not. It was the ball off the man's fingertips before the clock went to 0. I don't know, but they counted it for North Carolina, and Bennett was not a happy coach as he was walking off the court.
Where that ball sat on that back rim, I thought it was deflated.
What's the score? I think Tar Heels up like 1 or something like that. What else you got? You got anything else?
Well, the only other big game in state tonight, only one big game in the Big South. It's Charleston Southern at Winthrop. Now, remember, this Big South is jumble. High Point is at 8-2. Radford, Charleston Southern, UNC Asheville, all at 7-3. Right below them, Coastal Carolina, which is really, I think, lost 3 conference games in a row.
Yeah.
Gardner-Webb, who the Chanticleers lost to Saturday, and Winthrop. So either Winthrop is going to go into a 4-team tie tonight, or should say in a 2-team tie, or Charleston Southern is going to jump into second place, a half game behind High Point.
Let me also mention a couple of things. We mentioned Jordan Roper, ACC Co-Player of the Week, along with Louisville guard Terry Rozier. Duke freshman Jaleel Okafor is the Rookie of the Week. Roper led the Tigers to a 2-0 week, averaging 21 points per game in the 2 games. Also, USC's Aja Wilson, again, the SEC Freshman of the Week, averaged 15 points, nearly 7 rebounds, almost 2 assists, and 1.3 blocks per game. Yeah, she can play. Ty Green of USC Upstate, Atlantic Sun Player of the Week, 30.5 points, 3 rebounds, 2 steals per game for him. USC's Alex Destino, named 13 preseason freshman All-American from Baseball America today, and they're expecting him to be a major contributor. Baseball season coming up a week from Friday. Things open up across the country. And North Carolina announced today, Larry Fedora did, that they have hired former Nebraska defensive coordinator John Papuchis as a defensive assistant. I did not specify a specific position for Papuchis, who worked under Bo Pelini. All right, there you go. Back to the phones we go. And it is Billy in Florence. Next up here on Sports Talk. Hi, Billy. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. I hope you are.
We are.
The gentleman, Ronnie, I frustrate him some, Phil, and I don't really mean to. I'm just talking, just basically, I guess, I don't want to say bragging, just talking about how good the class is and the dynasty. Yeah. And the dynasty to have those building there. And people think he's building a dynasty. I mean, it's just.
I don't think you're bragging at all. I mean, if it's not bragging, if you can back it up.
And he's backing it up on the field. Dabo is. I mean, I gave him an A. I wouldn't give him an A+. The final, making it to the national championship and winning 10 and having the drama week to week with choice going down and playing with just, you don't really know who you're playing with, Deshaun going down. But Phil, I will, if things work out for Clemson, and I mean barring injury, if Deshaun's able to stay on the field or so forth. I remember you saying one time that you thought 16 was the year. Could you think the Tigers could get in the fortunate 4 at least if everything works out and 16, then maybe get it all done, because you just don't know how things are going to pan out. And I think South Carolina is on a downfall. They do have to kind of take a step back and look and realize they lost to a quarterback with a torn ACL, a one-legged quarterback that just controlled the game and just did what he really wanted to be honest with you. I'm going to kind of get your opinion on the previous question, about is 16 the year for the to get it all done, and could you see a fortunate 4 run barring the injury? And I'm hang up.
Fortunate 4. Well, going into the season, you look at the schedule, and there are some really tough games on the slate, home and away. If Deshaun Watson is healthy, I think Clemson can do some really, really good things. Now, got to be careful not to fall into that trap and overlook the losses on defense. 9 major contributors on defense are gone. Do you have, Clemson I'm talking about, do you have the stuff to successfully replace those guys? You know, if you do,
Plural.
it's going to be a hell of a year for Clemson. They'll have a chance to do a lot of good things. Our poll question is up on our website. How many games will Clemson win in 2015? We'll tell you what people are thinking in a minute. Time for one or more quick phone calls. If you want to hit us up, 800-956-7266. K-Mac, let's do a quick Twitter update.
Oh, goodness.
What have people been expressing their opinions about on our Twitter feed, at SportsTalk SC, by the way, if you didn't know?
Well, somebody, I just had to respond to him on the Feaster news where you put likely Clemson at the end of it, 6 o'clock announcement at the school atrium.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody wanted to know why include likely Clemson. I said, because that's where he's expected to commit.
Yeah.
And it was the old let the guy have his moment in the spotlight spiel, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to have his moment in the spotlight at 6 o'clock Wednesday, and he can announce for Clemson, or maybe it'll be something else. Maybe he'll throw a about face. So there's always those people. You're ruining the spotlight by putting out information that's being widely reported everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's just the way it works. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
We put out a Sports Talk PSA, Corn.
Oh, you did?
To remind people, don't use a Twitter account to harass teenage boys for not picking your favorite school. That needs to happen. People need to remember that. Some people said, why even tweet them at all ever? A few people said, yeah, direct your anger to the coaching staff that lost 10 recruits. 9, but who's keeping count, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll just have to go to our Twitter feed. We've posted a picture of Gamecock fans, what they're going to look like tonight as they watch the
you're just picking on the Gamecock fans.
I'm not picking on the Gamecock fans. Gamecock fans, a lot of favorites on that coming from Gamecock fans.
Also, the fans have to remember that the guys who jumped ship, you never had them in the first place. And the guy who's hopped on the ship Are you going to welcome them, or are you going to turn around and watch those sailing away? I mean, that depends on how good your football team is going to be, too, because they will field the football team, and your support is needed, not for you to be looking at what they don't have.
Mm-hmm. A couple of other recruiting notes to tell you about popping up on Twitter. Defensive end Patrick Bethel, Vero Beach, Florida, has picked up an offer from Clemson today. And a place kicker from North Augusta has announced via Twitter he's going to walk on at South Carolina. Punter place kicker from North Augusta, Westminster, Michael Almond will walk on for the Gamecocks. Give it a shot, see what he can do. Kickers, hey, if you can kick, walking on, you never know. You might just get that opportunities because kickers pretty flaky, and they come and go very quickly. Mon Denson, USC's commitment, says he's going to sign at 12:30. Now, Steve Spurrier will have his press conference Wednesday at 4. Dabo Sweeney will have his at 2:30. So stay tuned. 8:30, Damon Arnett on Twitter. 10 o'clock, Arden Key on Fox
Or don't,
Sports South.
if you're a Gamecock fan, probably just drink a cold one.
Or go read a book
to
or
bed.
something.
Read a book.
Act
Turn
like
off
it's
the
not
internet.
happening.
Turn off the internet.
Coverage on our website, sportstalksc.com. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow night. Signing Day Eve.